What's up, third grade friends? It's Mrs. Holt here. I am your visual art teacher this year. If you were here last year, you're thinking to yourself, that is not Mrs. Holt. I don't know who that person is. Well, I was Mrs. Revels last year, but I got married, so my last name changed. My new name is Mrs. Holt. If you forget or you call me Mrs. Revels, it's not a big deal. So today is Wednesday, the 16th of September, and you are seeing this video because the related arts teachers are putting out Wednesday videos for you to work on in our content areas. So lucky you, today is your visual art day. We're going to be using a couple elements of art to create this piece. You're going to be using line, color, and pattern. So you're going to need a couple of things to complete this art lesson, and please complete it. I want to see what you guys can do at home, so I want to check off that you've done it. So you're going to need a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be all white. It can be notebook paper. You could do this project in your sketchbooks. So you should have one of these with you. It's a book that we got donated to us from Amazon. It's just an empty paper in a book. These are what we're going to use in art as our sketchbooks. So you need these at home. So if we're doing a virtual lesson, you can do that in here. You're going to also need them in school. Just in case you finish early, you can draw or write in your sketchbook. These are yours to keep. If you do something in here that you want me to see, you can show me, but I will not be taking these up and grading them unless we have like a specific assignment to do in our sketchbooks. So you could use this paper to do this project as well. You're also going to need either a black pen, any type of black pen, or preferably a black Sharpie, or even if you have just a black marker, that will work as well. And then you're going to need something to color with. So you could use crayons, you could use colored pencils, markers, any of those things. I wouldn't use paint for this particular project. So go ahead and gather up your materials, turn on your creativity caps, and let's get creating. Alright, once you've gathered your materials, you need to write your name and your class code on the back of your artwork if it's a separate sheet of paper. If this is in your sketchbook, you don't need to write that. I wrote out your class codes for each class, so make sure you have those written on your paper. Alright, now you're going to take your black marker or your Sharpie and you're going to trace around your hand on your paper. Once you get to the edge, you're going to connect it. We're not going to have any wrists. Turn your paper and place your hand on a separate part and trace around. You want your handprints to overlap each other to create these kind of funky, cool shapes. I'm just going to keep adding in handprints to my paper until I like the number of hands and the kind of design on your paper. You really want your shapes to overlap. It's really important that all of your handprints are overlapping because each time they overlap, they're creating new and different shapes. And we're going to go back in with our color to fill those shapes in with color and pattern. Notice I'm also leaving my part of my hand off the page. My full hand doesn't have to be on the page to make a print. I can leave some of it off. It creates kind of an interesting design. Alright friends, now we're going to fill in the different shapes that were created by overlapping our handprints with a variety of colors and patterns. So I chose my first color and I went through and picked out a couple of the smaller shapes and just repeated the same pattern, those diagonal light green lines. Then I chose my next color, this kind of like pinkish, magenta, darker pink color, and I filled in these kind of triangles. Notice that I'm only going to fill in each shape that was made by overlapping the handprints. I don't want to color or fill in the space around my handprints, only where they overlap. So everywhere they're overlapping, it's creating these different kinds of shapes, and that's where you're going to fill it in, okay? You're not going to go crazy and fill it in all over the place, just in each individual shape. Each shape should be a different pattern and a different color. Try to make sure that you're not putting the same color and the same pattern right next to each other. You want to make sure you're using a lot of variety, a lot of color. So I'm going to speed through me filling in all of my shapes and my patterns, and we'll see you at the end. While I'm speeding through the footage of me filling in the different shapes of my handprint patterns, I just want to remind you that this should be your work time. So while I'm speeding through, I'm going to play a little bit of music, and while that is happening, you are working on your own artwork. You can use my video and some of the patterns that I'm using as a reference, but I want to see how creative you can be, what kind of patterns and colors you can come up with to add to your own artwork. So like I said, I'm going to speed through until the final product, and while I'm doing that, you should be working on your own project. Alright guys, as we near the end of this video, I just want to remind you to make sure that you've been using really good craftsmanship, using different colors and different patterns to fill in your different shapes that you've made by overlapping your handprints. Double check and make sure that your name and your class code are on the back of your paper if it's out of your sketchbook. If it's in your sketchbook, we don't need that. Just make sure that you have that written down just in case it's on a separate loose leaf sheet of paper. This project should take you anywhere from 30 minutes to 45 minutes depending on how detailed you get with your patterns. You should be getting this from at 11:40 and you should be finishing it up at 12:10. If you don't finish your artwork today, no big deal, we'll work on that later. I hope you guys had fun hanging out with me and making art together. Double check, make sure your name and class code's on, and I'll see you in person next time we meet again.